NBA player focus. As you remember, we did the last one for Evan Turner of the Boston Celtics. This one, again, will be a Boston Celtic player. We're going with Isaiah Thomas, their all-star point guard, going to his first all-star game this weekend in Toronto. And what I wanted to discuss with Isaiah Thomas was not only his play, but his value and where you would rank a guy like an Isaiah Thomas as far as an MVP. Now, I'm just going to make points here, and you guys can decide the rest. I'm not saying Isaiah Thomas should win MVP. I'm not saying Isaiah Thomas is better than this player or that particular player. I am just pointing out what value is, how we look at value, how we judge value, and where that would rank him. I'm not making a prediction for anything. I'm just doing that as of right now. Now, what we're going to start is Isaiah Thomas came over last year in mid-February, right around this time last year, it was about a week later, and the team was 20-32 when he played his first game. Now, that season, the Celtics finished 40-42, so they went 20-10 with Isaiah Thomas. He didn't play in every game. I believe he missed one or two here, or maybe a few. Did not play that many, I don't believe, as the record has it since he was acquired. But still, the team went 20-10 down the stretch, made the playoffs, got up to a 7th seed, and moved on from there. Now, this season, they are third in the Eastern Conference. A lot of people would say overachieving. I don't know. I think there's more talent on this roster than people will give them credit for. That being said, I am a Celtics fan, so I may be a bit biased. But this season, he hasn't missed a game. They've played 55. They're 32-23. So Isaiah Thomas has played 85 games as a Celtic, and the team is 52-33 in that stretch. That's a 611 winning percentage. Thomas, over that time, he's played 77 games. He's averaged 20.9 points per game, 20.85, so I rounded it up to 20.9. And in that time, he has over 6.5 assists this season. That's certainly nothing spectacular, but 6.5 is pretty good. As a point guard, you might like to see a little more. He averaged only 5.4, though, as a Celtic last year, and his highest total was in 2013-2014. He averaged 6.3, so he's elevated that. He's certainly been distributing a lot more, and this is a guy who will get some rebounds. He's averaging 3 rebounds a game. Now, that's not great, but the guy is 5'9", so he's not afraid to mix it up. And obviously, we've discussed this, his defense is probably where he lacks the most, but you can certainly try to hide him out there. Now, we're going to get into the value aspect of things, just looking at those numbers as is. How can you deny how valuable this guy has been to a team that was floundering? Let's look at the previous record the Celtics had after Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce had departed, and then eventually Rajon Rondo at the beginning of last season. They went 25-57 the first year without Garnett and Paul Pierce. Rondo came back from injury later in that season. And then half a season, or a little more than half of the season, where Thomas didn't play with the Celtics before he got acquired, they were 20-32. So the team altogether was 45-89 prior to him arriving, and then since then they've been winning over a 600 clip. Now, we know that Steph Curry is going to win the MVP this year. Again, I'm not saying Isaiah Thomas is a more deserving MVP or he's more valuable than a Steph Curry is, but I would challenge people to look at it in this perspective. If you put Steph Curry on the Boston Celtics, I don't think, with the current roster that is, instead of Isaiah Thomas, so the same roster that Isaiah Thomas is playing with, I don't think the Warriors are playing much better than 6'11 over that time. Would the Warriors be worse, or the Celtics wouldn't be playing better than 6'11 over that time if Steph Curry was there instead of Isaiah Thomas? Now, if you put Isaiah Thomas on the Warriors, are they playing at their ridiculous rate that they are on right now? No, obviously not. But I still think that Warriors team would be much closer to where they are than the Celtics team. If you had Steph Curry on them, then that Celtics team would be what the Warriors currently are. So there has to be some consideration of value for Isaiah Thomas. And he's really sprung this team forward. There's a lot of there's not many improvements that have been made outside of Marcus Smart being in his second year. Amir Johnson has been added to the Celtics, but none of these guys are anyone who I've really been quite fond of yet. I mean, Marcus Smart is a guy who is improving. A lot of Celtics fans expect a lot of big things. I'm not quite sold on Marcus Smart up to this point, and I think Amir Johnson has been a bit of a letdown. So certainly, I don't think this team would be anywhere had it not been for Isaiah Thomas this season. Now, will he be able to get to an All-NBA team? That's something I would certainly like to see. When I cast my ballot at the end of the year, will I give it to him? I don't know. I'd like to see if he can keep this team in the third seed, possibly raise them up to 2. But certainly, his play will dictate what happens the rest of the year. His numbers have to be better than what they are now, and they're still pretty good. If he can do that and guide this team to a third seed, maybe even the second seed, then we'll see what happens. But certainly you'd have to consider him as an All-NBA performer at least, and you have to at least keep in mind his value and look at him in the most valuable player race. Because I'm not the one who makes the standard of you look at it as value. When I look at MVP, I've always been under the assumption it's the best player or the best player on the best team. It's other people who like to use the term value because they're trying to bring a guy who's possibly from a losing team or has a weaker record than another guy. It's often in baseball, this is where it usually happens, but you look at a guy who has much better numbers on a team that's losing, or lost more games to a team that a guy who's the best player on that team. So if you're looking at value just as that aspect, how do you really argue Isaiah Thomas's value to the team? And we discussed that.